What a way to start Series 8 of I Am, I Have. We have the wonderful Will Young with us here today. Welcome, Will.
Where did you come up with the title?
I Am, I Have. It was all about that we can have mental health challenges in our lives. And myself, I have OCD. I live with OCD, but we're so much more than the mental health challenge or mental health illness that we have. So it was all about talking about the whole person.
I have to stop myself when I get interviewed from interviewing people. I like knowing. It's a great title, I think. What it sort of says to me, presence, ownership, acceptance, empathy, all those things that I think we're not really brought up with in the West.
It's so lovely to hear that from you because I've been listening to your podcast, The Wellbeing Lab, where you're talking to lots of people about mental health and different subjects like heartbreak and the workplace, but also different
Yeah.
types of therapies. And you have your book coming out, which is Be Yourself and Happier, the A-Z of Wellbeing. So you're really immersed in this topic at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been immersed in it really for 8 years, and that's my dog snoring in the background. I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize. We love a dog on I Am, I Have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I own a dog. I think I own a pig.
Well, it sounds like we're on the moors because it's very, very windy outside. So with the moors and the pigs,
It's it's it's,
pigs
it's
and dogs,
I mean, it's biblical.
it is.
It's sort of that thing of, I mean, it's enlightenment really. So when I started really kind of, when I really got into myself and sort of broke into sort of past traumas and, was breaking down unhealthy behaviors and all these things, I really hit a wall and a wall that I had through survival, not wanted to sort of climb over or even break through. So as I learned more about my humanity, I just sort of wanted to share it really. And I'm really fascinated by the subject. I love the subject. I love the subject of well-being. I love the subject of mental health, and it's sort of become my passion. But definitely in the last, even actually, funny enough, since this book's been finished, which I started working on 8 years ago, because I was reading a lot of other material and I was having a lot of different therapies, and I just thought, oh, it'd be great if it was all in one place. So now that's come to fruition. The podcast is happening. There's another project I'm working on, and I do a lot of talks. I really feel like I've entered in the flow. I'm really in the flow at the moment. It's so nice to be in the flow.
That is a lovely state to be in, and it's eternally fascinating, isn't it? The mind. And one of the things that I took away from your book, I've always thought about the mind body connection. You talk a lot about the body mind connection and somatic therapy, and actually starting with the body. I wondered if you wanted to share any of that before I start to talk about your I ams.
I didn't realize actually how much I had written starting from the body and the nervous system, until actually I read the audio version of it over the last week, and just doing a few interviews and people really focusing in on that. So I guess I've sort of been in my own kind of education bubble through my own therapy, and yeah, I've really come to an understanding of what our brain does for us and what our nervous system does for us. I mean, put really simply, we have a sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic. The sympathetic lets us run away from danger, lets us freeze, do all the things to survive. And the parasympathetic then sort of comes up to settle us down again. If that's out of whack and our parasympathetic isn't working, it those feelings of anxiety, the cortisol, the adrenaline, stay in our body and very much drives, I believe, our mind, because our mind is a problem solving tool. It's very, very good. But when our mind's getting messages from our body saying danger, our mind interprets those messages as, well, we must do something. So, for example, for me, because all the stuff I do, I model on my own behaviour, so it comes from no judgment. My thing will be, if I'm sitting at night and thinking, I must repaint my room, it is imperative that I immediately repaint my room. I don't like this colour, it's not work, but it comes with a sort of sense of anxiety. Then I don't need to repaint my room. I need to settle my body, calm down, and then have a thought. And normally I'll be like, no, I'm quite happy with the colour. Thank you very much. So it's a humorous example of how our problem-solving mind will react to our nervous system. The problem is, particularly in the West, is that we focus too much on our mind. And actually, I'm not a huge fan of these kind of people, who are like, you change all your thoughts and you get out there and you do it. It's like, yeah, that's easy. Yeah, great. But if your nervous system doesn't want to do it, it's not going to do it. I think a lot of those kind of motivational speakers, they have real power, but we don't want to get into our bodies because our bodies store a lot of shit, a lot of stuff, a lot of pain, a lot of sadness, a lot of hopelessness. We don't want to get into our bodies. So it's not an easy thing to do. But hopefully in the book, at least it opens a sort of doorway into a way of becoming what my old therapist, Lois Evans, used to call a functional adult, and gaining self-mastery. That's really what we want to gain, is self-mastery.
And that comes across in spades in the book. And some of the other takeaways, you talk about grounding yourself, putting your back on the floor, perhaps lying, and putting your, really practical. I was making notes thinking, yeah, must do that next time I decide I'm going to completely rearrange the kitchen and then leave my job and, whatever it is that I'm going through that day.
Oh, so you relate to that? Do you relate to that kind of thing when the thoughts might come up?
Absolutely, because it's the idea when you want to move away from the anxiety. And as a productive society, I think sometimes the way we feel we can move from anxiety is to rearrange, to change something. And actually, sometimes we need to settle. We just need to settle, but it can be the hardest thing to do.
It is hard, and I really it is hard, and I hopefully always validate how difficult it is, because it's very easy to say these things, but also we're often fighting when different parts of our brain get triggered. We're really fighting things that really seem true. So for example, last night I got triggered and I just thought I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any friends, and that was my trigger, and I was like, I've got no friends. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I know this trigger. I've got no friends at all. And I could write it out because it's not the case. So, those things really do seem very, very true in the moment. So one can get into a conflict. So I always say, do things very gently. But, behind me now, I've got my yoga mat, and, I'll lie on that twice a day. Very gentle stuff, though. Really take things very gently, and it's a practice.
And it's so doable as well, which is one of the things which is great about your lovely book, is they are doable suggestions that you give, such as owning your shit. When you're having a disagreement with someone, not bringing anyone else into the room and saying, we all feel this way. It's about always using I and owning yourself.
Yeah, those things are really key. There's lots of tiny little things that are so nuanced, but actually very, very powerful, that I've learned over the years. So, that's a big one of mine. How people will, bring in other people into an argument. Well, we all, so I use an example of when I was doing the show Cabaret, and I had to set some boundaries, and someone was triggered and came in and kept on saying, well, we all, and I had to keep on bringing her back and going, well, who is we? Because it's only you in the room. We've got to be really quite rigid about how we look after and watch out for certain language, like the use of the word but. Really notice how often we use the word but. Today I'm feeling really positive but quite anxious. Today I'm feeling really positive and quite anxious. It takes away the judgment. And I learned that. These are courses that I've been on. I learned that in a course in Arizona. That was my one takeaway, but it was a brilliant one. So I think, wow, what a pearl of wisdom. So, I'm going to put that in the book. But the way that we use language is crucial, because language is, all we have. So the use of the word I. When I first started therapy, I felt for about 2 years that saying I was self-centered. So I'd say we. Now I think, that's ridiculous. What am I saying we? But check out the amount of times when people are being interviewed, famous people, whoever, and when they talk about their feelings, they use the word we. Well, we just get, we do get anxious. It's like, hang on, you're talking about yourself.
It's so interesting because in my own mind, I can think of examples when I might have done that. And it's also about softening the focus. It's about perhaps, for me, if I did that, it's about not putting all the attention on myself. Whereas actually, I'm speaking as myself. That's okay. I can
Yeah.
use I.
And this is all learned stuff. This is all learned stuff. You know, you can watch any interview program and you'll be guaranteed that whoever the guests are will use the word we more than the word I. But also the use of the word I is so important because all these things I've learned through work, a lot of the techniques of stuff is stuff that I've learned because of my job as a performer by seeing voice coaches, accent coaches, great osteopaths. But the use of the word I in conflict resolution, crucial. Always talk from the I position. Always. My brother had a great phrase, which was keep your side of the street clean. I actually envisage a broom and me brushing my side of the street.
It's a lovely phrase, isn't it? Keep your side of the street clean. And you talk about that when it comes to parents and relationships. If you go into it with good intention and your side of the street is clean, then hopefully that will be an interaction that will be more positive than it could have been if you hadn't done that work.
Well, intention's very key. I mean, and that's one because I do it in an A to Z form, and under I intention was something that I learned. I can't remember which very wise person I learnt that from, but I was talking to a friend the other day actually, and they got dropped and they wanted to ring the agent. And I said, what's your intention from this? Check out what you're looking to get from this, because it seems to me that what the person was looking to get, they weren't going to get. They weren't going to get, an agent going, I'm really sorry, and giving some wonderful feedback and making it all end in a lovely adult way. Never going to happen.
Yeah.
Check into your, but also check into your intention. I use the example of apologizing. If I apologize because I want to make you like me again, it's not my intention isn't really to just own my stuff and really apologize. Or, my hope is that you'll go, oh yes, and actually I was wrong in this. So if I don't get that, I'm going to still feel angry and not apologetic. Really check into what drill down into your intentions and try and find the most authentic, true intention, because otherwise you'll always come up short and you'll remain, frustrated and unhappy.
It's so true. And I think your A to Z format is fantastic because people can dip in and out. And also, I think that's a really important thing. If you are struggling with your mental health, sometimes it's hard to read a lot, with attention.
Yes.
It can be so tough. So having a book where there is that kind of A to Z and you can come in and out is fantastic.
Right. You're exactly right. There will be some things I've missed, of course. But, you're right. And actually, sometimes just dipping in to reading a little bit of material, for me, can settle me. For some reason, it gets a different part of my brain working. I actually feel like I'm in the right space, So, but you're right, wading through all those books, which are wonderful, and I continue to read, can be a bit overwhelming. So that's why I did do things like Christmas. Christmas is such a triggering time. So it's something I learned from a therapist on how I handled Christmas. Work, bosses, things like that, parents-in-law. You know what I mean? Just things like that. But also like things like gardening, cleaning. So for me, cleaning, I weirdly since lockdown actually, I get a lot out of cleaning my house and looking after my house. And I'm not actually the most clean person in terms of my house is not like perfectly, it's like a bloody French brocante in my house. But I like keeping my house, I like looking after my house. So I do little and often cleaning. That's my rule. So I'll just do a little bit of polishing there, a little bit of thingy there. And I love nurturing my house because it's an extension of me.
And that's actually one of your I ams, which is I am a lover of polishing brass. And When I read your book, this was a great feeling, not to feel like I am the only person who talks to their house. And you said, I nurture my house and I talk to it. I would do this. There, that looks better.
I
Oh.
talk to my house, yeah. I'm in a love affair with my house.
So tell us more about that, and also why polishing brass particularly floats your boat.
You know, any friend will know that I love polishing brass. I tell you why, okay? Because I love collecting things. And it actually started when I had a website. I should have sort of kept it up really, but I got a bit busy. Of buying stuff from markets, indoor markets, and sort of not posh antique shops, but and particularly brass, which is always dirty and you know it looks and it's like 50p, and then I'd polish it up and it looks beautiful. So I think that's when my love of brass, of cleaning brass started, because it's very instantaneous. And so last night, and I have a lot of brass. I think it's a beautiful sort of hue, and I love black and brass. I just think it's a lovely. It's my sort of aesthetic. You'll see a lot of black behind me. You know, I love that, or gold. And I cleaned my brass taps last night before I went to bed. It took me 5 minutes, and I came down this morning, and I was like, oh God, they're beautiful.
Oh, nice.
You know, it takes no time at all. I just find it really relaxing. I find it so relaxing and so rewarding.
What a feeling of accomplishment as well, when it's gone from being slightly, off to beautiful and shiny.
Oh, I love it. I love it. But it started from me collecting a lot of brass things and then cleaning them, and if I may say, selling them for a huge markup. And people wanted them. So that's where it started. And then I will just sit of an evening and watch a documentary and polish some brass.
You talk about cleaning in the book, and in terms of setting a bit of a mind frame. You talk about, making your bed when you get up in the morning. There is something about setting the scene or looking after that place that you're living in and the pieces that are around you.
Yeah.
It's really mindful, but also it's, as you said, it's an extension of you. So nurturing that is nurturing yourself.
Yeah, and can I just say, by the way, I don't do these things the whole time. I'm not coming from a place of like, I am not Mr. Perfect. Because often we can read things and we think, well, God, that guy's or that person, that woman's got it down. I haven't made my bed this morning. I've got a suitcase I haven't unpacked. I've still got some posts on my dining room table that I haven't looked at for a month. So I'm not like Mr. Perfect. What I do know is that all these things, and when I do them, they do make things easier in my life and they do make me happier. So I have a toolkit, because often I think we're very quick to shame ourselves. Oh, I haven't made my bed this morning. Oh, I woke up late, so I didn't walk the dog as much as I should have done. And instantly we're in shaming mode.
Yeah.
Like, what? No. Don't get out of that mindset. We never need to shame ourselves. We're never going to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. All these things are things that I know work for me. I try and do them as much as I can.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things is that we know when things are out of kilter from the way we live in our homes, and it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, but also there are signs that we have from ourselves when we lose interest in things, or when we just can't do what we would normally do, what would be a baseline for us. There are signs and signals that we have,
Yeah.
from joy to just complete kind of disillusionment. We know something's shifted.
Well, there's a great book I read, I can't remember what it's called now, but this person who sort of describes himself as an urban monk, and actually I put it in the book about viewing your life as a garden, and what areas of your life are getting enough water and what areas aren't. And last night I was feeling a little bit out of kilter, and I noticed I smoke very bad. Don't drink, but I smoke. And I was thinking, I'm smoking a bit too much. This is interesting. And I was sort of drilling down to it, and I was thinking, well, what areas of my life? Because I split them up using the garden analogy into different. So one bush might be work, another plant is friends, socializing, spirituality. And I thought, God, actually, I haven't socialized outside work for quite a while. I need to do something about it. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. There's a bit of a resistance to that. Okay, well, that's interesting. So, these are tools that I really do use, and metaphors that I really do use on myself, on a daily level.
And we all have to, don't we, on a daily level, because every day is completely different and we're never on a continuum. You know, we're never going to be happy all the time or productive all the time or whatever it might be.
No, we're all the captain of our ship, and it's all about, if you're running a ship, you're running a lot of different things. So you're always modifying and balancing constantly, and that's the way it should be.
Absolutely. Let's move on to your other I am, which is I am a person. And I was interested in what you wanted to say about being a person.
Yes, I'm not really sure. I would imagine I did it in terms of just drilling down. You know, I often say to people when I'm mentoring them, you're not a robot, you're a human being. I mean, I think that might be another of mine, but you know, it's like I have feelings, I have an identity, you know, I have a character, and we're very quick to forget that. We're very, very quick to forget that. And we're very quick to invalidate ourselves. You know, I have a working theory that validation is one of the elixirs of happiness. So, for example, I got sacked from a job the other day. I mean, sack sounds more dramatic, but I quite like saying it. And I felt not good enough. I felt panicky, all these things. And those are difficult emotions because they're uncomfortable emotions. But then what comes is a secondary sort of wave of invalidating those emotions and being like, you should be feeling this. Come on, you've done enough therapy. You should be just bouncing back immediately. And so I have to like, yeah, should statements. So I have to come dial it back and go, you're a person. You're allowed to have these emotions. They're uncomfortable. You know, often it's not actually the pure emotions that are the things. It's our reactions to them based on societal pressure, based on how we've been brought up, all those kind of things. So I think that's why I said I'm a person. Yeah.
And I can imagine it's tough being in the public eye for as long as you have been.
It's not tough. Honestly, if I got lost in the fame side of things or that pressure, it's not reality. It would be so easy for me to say, oh, the difficulty. Okay, so I was watching something the other day and it was an artist and she was really upset. She'd released something and she had read, I presume I hope she hadn't been told, a lot of negative comment. And I actually sort of said to the screen, why are you reading it? What are you doing? You know, so it'd be the reason I'm using that as an example is it'd be very easy for that person or me to go, it's very, very difficult. And we could have a whole conversation about trolls online and it's so difficult, you know, all these haters. I don't even want to be involved in that area of life. I don't read anything on social media. I don't read reviews. If there's a problem, people will tell me. You know, take yourself out of the lion's den. So I think it would be very easy because most people won't understand it because most people aren't famous. For me to go, it's very, very difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult. Nonsense.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, that was a complete assumption on my behalf, was that it must feel like this intense spotlight. And actually,
well, only because that's how I react to it. No, but it's just because I, from the very beginning, didn't think that it was. I just saw it as all an illusion and nonsense. So I thought I'm not going to like make this my kind of like reasons for difficulties in life. I'm very, very fortunate. So I'll just navigate getting away from as much of the negative stuff as possible. But actually, you know, the interesting thing about fame is it's just on a wider scale. We all have people that say things nice and nasty about us.
Yeah, that's very true. Do you think there's a certain, so I am celebrating my 44th birthday this year. And I definitely feel in the last couple of years, there's less of a desire to care about what other people think. I mean, there are still moments that I have where I think everybody hates me. I have no friends. No one's going to want to, you know, do anything with me in the future. But I find myself giving less of a toss when somebody perhaps doesn't like what I'm happy that I'm doing.
Yeah, it's great.
So I'm very liberating about it.
It's so brilliant. I mean, one hopes that is what happens as
we continue to age.
Well, I think so. It's why I love getting older. You know, I genuinely, of course, I have moments, but really, I never forget years ago. There's a great director called Michael Gracie who I did a video with, and he did a lot of my tours. As you know, he was the art director, and he went on to do The Greatest Showman, and he's a great friend. And I remember him saying to me, "The thing is cool is being yourself. So just be yourself, because that is really cool.
Just be yourself."
Yeah, but I think you do need to learn. I needed to learn those lessons growing up. It's part of the course, really. I don't think one can fast forward those things. Some people are born with a very, very strong sense of self and identity, and that, or not born, but that it's harvested, and that's brilliant. And other people have to work a bit harder.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And your other I am is I am a child.
Yeah.
What did you want to share with us about being a child?
Well, I'm not a full advocate of it because I think it can be too prescriptive, but there's a type of therapy called parts therapy, which is really looking at lots of different parts of us. And, the idea being that we will split off lots of painful parts of us as we grow up. So I might have a 4-year-old child that I split off from, and splitting is a very well-known, well-researched psychological thing that a lot of us do. So it's about sort of reclaiming those split parts and becoming whole. So I thought the child thing is, we can forget that we have all these wonderful parts within us. I talk about fear in the book, and the idea of being scared. And, often as adults, we think, oh, well, I don't get scared anymore because now I'm an adult. But of course we do. I get scared the whole time, and I used to berate myself for it. And then I realised that through reading and things like that and therapy that, well, I'm allowed to be scared. I can be an adult and be scared of things. It doesn't have to be like, oh, if a crocodile was in my bath, yeah, that would be all right. But things are scary. So that's why I chose that, because we all have parts within us that are still there. They're still there. But also, we want to keep the child alive. I mean, talking about the inner child, sometimes I sort of want to retch because I just think, oh God, it's such therapy speak. It's like, embrace your inner child. And I know it's great. And maybe that's still my problem. I do like to remain childlike. And, my dad is very childlike and it's hysterical. It's lovely. Just because I'm 43, I love nothing better than running around with a 4-year-old playing hide and seek. It's like the best thing ever.
It's so important to keep that part of yourself and also the things that you love. You talk about your gardening and how much you love being in the garden, and that was something you used to do when you were younger, is garden with your dad. But also humor. One of the things that you've said recently is, with mental health, it's important that we're not overly earnest when we're talking about mental health, because you will have humorous times. It's with us all the time, our mental health. And when we have mental ill health, there will still be times that it will be funny or something humorous will happen.
And I think we can laugh with ourselves, and that can create empathy. So there are lots of things that my mind might come up with that I think, oh God, that's so funny that I'd be thinking that today. And also for me, humor is a great resource, always has been, but it's also a great source of mindfulness, because to be humorous is to have perhaps a sense of being the observer, and that takes us one step back. But I mean, I think also I've always, my best friends are, I won't actually say what he said, but I was messaging a friend of mine yesterday. He's one of my closest friends. He lives in America. He's so funny. And, the things we were saying were just hysterical to me. I actually messaged back after one of the things saying, if this was on social media, we'd both be cancelled. It was nothing, by the way, I just want to say it was nothing like inappropriate or anything like that. But, he's got a great sense of humour, and also I think humour can be very odd. You think of people like Monty Python, very odd. French and Saunders, very left field. So I love it. Humour's quite performative as well. But I mean, honestly, some of my friends, they genuinely make me belly laugh.
And that's such a gift to have. That I have a friend, Neil, who possibly makes me laugh the most in the whole world. And it is such a gift to have people in your life that you can laugh like that with, and that you can say the most irreverent things to, and feel like that's okay. That's absolutely fine.
It's so much fun. He's got a lovely kid, and he sent me a picture of his kid, and I said, but when will you be sending him away? He's only 4. You will be sending him away, won't you? Oh yeah. We'll be sending him away soon. But there's a laugh behind it, because I went to boarding school, which was horrific, and I was abandoned. So there's there's levels. You can reclaim stuff through humour as well. You can. people can go too far, and that's maybe a different debate on what people choose to use and where, and famous comedians, the kind of things they say. And I think it's a very interesting debate, actually. But again, I think actually probably comes back to intention.
And we've seen that play out in the last few weeks, obviously, with the Oscars. But I think, back to your point, humour is important, and keeping the childish part of us, the childlike part of us, and engaging in the things that bring us joy is deeply important.
Well, there's a great example in the Oscars. Basically that was emotional hijack, which I talk about in the book. He was emotionally hijacked and off he went. Didn't deal with it in an appropriate way. It's as simple as that, really.
That's so interesting. And especially when we look at it and how people kind of responded to it afterwards, you've got two people in the middle of that who are both bringing their own experience and backstory to it. So that is interesting. And you write about emotional hijacking in the book. Did you want to say anything more about that?
Well, emotional hijack is when, a part of our brain will fire up and take our frontal lobes offline. So this is really me simplifying because I'm not a neuroscientist and I'm not, but, the frontal lobes, basically do things like, oh, I'd like a cup of tea, let's boil the kettle. But I think this is an important point, actually, because going back to what I said, at the beginning about really validating how hard it can be, when our frontal lobes are taken offline because our sort of back lizard brain, sort of caveman, cavewoman brain kicks into gear, it's like, wading through treacle. You've got to get the frontal lobes back online, and that's difficult. So in my opinion, what would have happened, maybe with someone like Will Smith, is that you get an emotional hijack, the back of his brain would have taken up, reason goes out the window. I've got opinions on what actually flooded his brain, but I won't say that. And in terms of what triggered him, and he went into a rage. So then he goes into rage. So it's not focused anger, it's rage, violence. It continued with swearing and things like that. And you could see, if you actually look at his mouth, his lips are trembling. He is properly activated. And it would have taken him a long time to calm down. Then the tears came, which would have been a calming down. Afterwards, what he said, different opinions on that. So emotional hijack happens to a lot of us. Road rage, classic emotional hijack. This is my space, this is territorial, So what I do say is, when you are emotionally hijacked, or let's say your partner or someone is in an emotionally hijacked place, there's no time to be having any kind of discussion or dialogue.
That's interesting when it comes to your conversation about the child part of us as well, because emotional hijacking, it may come from childlike experiences, but it acts out in a very adult way.
Exactly. Well, I talk about adult children, in the book. We are a world full of adult children. Lots of very big, scary bodies, but with tiny little children inside. Arrested development, basically. And it's a good thing to do, to ask oneself, am I acting like a child now? Or, and it doesn't have to be from a shaming place, but I see a lot of adult children, particularly in work. People are just not capable of delivering news. They're dreadful at it. Absolutely, particularly in my business. That's the much harder thing. The fame thing, fine. To be honest, the business of being a performer, that's what becomes very difficult, because no one likes having difficult conversations, and most people can get away with not having them. So it always fascinates me how people won't have difficult conversations.
It is very interesting. And obviously, with all the work that you've done, you will see that more now. You will see when people are refusing to use the I or have the conversation or bringing people into the room.
Oh, it's constant. I had someone the other day, and they were basically like sort of gaslighting me. And I was like, this is just nonsense. But I actually chose to not get involved with the dialogue because they were so involved down this road that I thought, this is a waste of my time trying to unpack this and get to the truth. Because actually I can see what the truth is, and I don't have the time or the inclination. We all have choices. It's the best thing about self-mastery, really, is you start seeing people and you ask yourself, do I feel safe getting involved in this kind of dialogue? Do I feel safe putting myself in this environment. Safety is one of our key things that we don't think about. And often when we don't feel safe, I would have said probably Will Smith didn't feel safe in some way, so that's where it would have come from. Some level of threat, safety. So, ask yourself, do I feel safe? Do I want to be in this situation? And often I don't involved with things, but it makes my life so much easier.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, that's really fascinating and a lot to think about in terms of adult children and different situations in our life, and when we ourselves have been emotionally hijacked, because I think that's the important thing when we're considering all these concepts or these behaviors, is not to always look outwards. It's important to note that we do it too,
Have to. That's all we can do. I mean, that's all we can do. We can't change other people's behavior. We can't. And if we want to, it's not the purest intention, I would say. Now, some people listen to that and go, well, that's bonkers. What happens if you want to make someone happier? But if you really drill down into codependency, if you really, really keep your side of the street clean, if you really own your own shit, you don't want to change people's behavior. You just want to model and set your boundaries. And then how people react to that is astonishing. It really is. But if we're looking to do things to change other people, that is actually a form of manipulation.
And as you say, it doesn't come with the purest intention. We're going to move on to your I have, which is all about pure intention, because it's you have dogs. You say, I have dogs. And I believe that dogs come with the purest intention. They always come with love. Tell us about your dogs.
I have dogs, yes. Domino's, he's behind me. I suppose in a way, I have 3 dogs. I have a Border Terrier, Esme. I did have a Dachshund, but she got run over by an electric car.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Take note, though, because they're so quiet. So I'm not the only one that's happened to. And then I rescued 2 American pit bulls from Los Angeles at the beginning of COVID, and they were about to be put down. And there's something amazing about rescue dogs. So I brought them over. I mean, they're enormous. He's enormous. And now his sister lives with my parents. She's also deaf, and she's incredible. And he lives with me. And I'm just obsessed with him. Absolutely obsessed with him. It's so weird. I think one, he's a bigger dog. He's so loving. And animals just want to exist. I never forget, I did a documentary on gorillas, and I went to Gabon and met some gorillas that were still being rehabilitated, so I could sort of get close to them. And the love, and the desire to just be is, I've never experienced anything like that, ever. And dogs have the same thing, really. But what I love about dogs also, I'm obsessed with rescue videos. So when because, friends of mine go, oh, I can't watch them because they're in such a bad state. And I say, but no, look, then they're so happy. And it's such a good model for humans, because they get these dogs, they're so traumatized, and then they enact these simple acts of gaining trust, play, eating, exercise, socializing, and you just see these dogs transform. And never fails to amaze me, and we can do the same thing for ourselves. It's just we have slightly more complicated brains, unfortunately. So that's why I put dogs. But Domino particularly, because he's a big dog, he's reactive to other dogs. He's got a lot better. So only I walk him. I take complete responsibility for him. He's part of my daily routine, and I love him. He's going to have a bath. He's going to have a bath today.
This is one of my favourite subjects. And when I started doing this podcast, I had a wonderful producer called Neil who told me I had to stop talking about dogs, because every single conversation we were talking about dogs. But I have a rescue dog as well. His name's Zach. And he's my second rescue dog as an adult. The first one was from the Mayhew, called Pip, and he had no teeth, and he was a senior dog when we got him, so his tongue would stick out the side.
Yes, hang out. We had that.
But I genuinely believe there is something about rescue dogs specifically, that they rescue you right back.
Well, there was something written by someone during lockdown about the power of rescue dogs. But I mean, my sort of contextualizing of Domino is still he was an hour away from being put down. So I guess that is my brain. I could move on from that. But I think maybe there is something deeper there about the rescuing. I don't feel like he's rescued me, but I do just feel like it's a miracle, that he's here, that everything aligned, that I ended up with this dog. I didn't need any more dogs. I wasn't looking to get any more dogs. I did say to him about a year ago, I said to him, "You are no longer a rescue dog, Domino." I said, "You are now a prince." I know it's too much.
No,
Too
it's the
much.
subject. I was just
Make you cry.
weeping.
I know. I know. But people do, there is something special. Yeah, and I think they do know. I don't think it's just our human brains putting a story onto something. I think they do know. And I tell you what, people around here are obsessed with him. Absolutely obsessed with him.
Well, it also starts interactions with other people. So my mum, after my dad died, would take the dog around the park, and it meant that she was seeing people, but not in a way that was kind of forced to see people. It was just a constant everyday seeing people.
Yeah, there's a sort of comfort there. And I mean, you're right, actually, because he really does, we go to the cafe every morning at the end of my road and he gets chicken. That's the deal. But what's so great is I interact with the world through him at the beginning of my day. I find mornings quite difficult. Sometimes I wake up quite groggy and a bit anxious, so that gets me into the world very quickly. There's always people in there. There's like the local builders who I know now, and they're like, "Oh, there he is, Domino." And so you're right. It's a lovely, safe way of interacting. And actually, I think in a way he is a sort of service animal for me, but they call it a different name. What are they called? But I actually think I probably could go to a doctor and say he is my what do they call them when you get
That they're like emotional.
emotional support dog? Yeah, you have to get a lead, so you need to go to the doctor and they give you a special coloured lead or a pass or something. But I've done it at the BBC because the BBC, really need to sort of, they're very PC. So I just lie and I think, well, you're never going to take me on and say you can't have a in.
I want photos of Domino at the BBC. And I'm very glad that we've heard just a little bit of him, just very gently at the beginning of the podcast, having a little snore in the background. Talking about dogs is a beautiful way to nearly end the podcast. And I feel very grateful that you had that as your I have. And the final question is about 10 years from now. So if you could meet yourself 10 years from now, what do you hope a 10 years older Will would say to you?
What would he say to me? Well, okay. So this is what's coming up for me. I have a sort of a dream of spending more time in the sun. So in France, I'm thinking because it's still near to England. So that's one of my dreams. But also, I'm very aware that we can often focus onto certain things, saying if I just get that and I work for that, then everything will be okay and my life will be sorted and it will look really good on paper. So at the moment, I'm really curious about my notion of that could be what ends up happening in my life. So I'd just be interested if like he was in France.
That sounds lovely.
It's a complicated one, but I think we can often just think, oh, if I can just get that new thing, everything will be okay. So we work, we get it, and then we go, oh, well, that didn't do what I thought it was going to do. So at the moment, I'm quite mindful of my little dream, but I don't feel activated by it that much of the time. So I'm not like obsessively online, must. Whereas in the past, I would have been very curious about it. But I think we always need to be, we always want to know that we'll be okay wherever we are. That's the thing. We'll be okay wherever we are if we can just be resting in ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, if you're dumped into quicksand, maybe not. But you know what I mean? It's like, so I'd be interested where I am in my life, and I'm quite open for where that may be. Yeah.
That's lovely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've had a lovely time talking to you, meeting Domino. Thank you so much.
Thank you.